everybody, welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and I am not feeling better yet. Hopefully, now I will start to. I went back to the hospital this morning, and I saw a doctor who actually, he still didn't know what it was, but he was like, okay, logically, if the prednisone helped last time, but it came back when you ran out, then maybe we should give you slightly longer on the prednisone, but he still wants me to see my family doc, so I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do that. And he also, there's been a referral put through to a dermatologist because it's obviously something in the skin, and they want a skin specialist to look at it. He goes, I have never, the doctor in the emergency room this morning goes, so I have never seen something like this before. And he goes, it would make the most sense that this is a reaction to the antibiotics that you were taking, but you're not taking them anymore. So this doesn't really make any sense. And he actually apologized for not having a more definitive answer for me. He had a much better bedside manner than the doctor on Tuesday did. And I actually had to point that out to him because I was like, I don't know, like, she didn't even introduce herself to me. I had no idea who she was. Like, I didn't know her name. She didn't tell me. She was very short with me. Like, she even asked me, because we were there for both me and the oldest. And he's nowhere close to an infant. And she goes, how was his delivery? And I'm like, fine. Like, what? I really think my blindness threw her off. But the more I hear about this doctor in the community, the more I come to conclude that her bedside manner just kind of sucks. But all the other doctors that I've dealt with in that hospital have been really good. And the care that I've received has been really good. So I'm not unhappy. Hello, Rex. Hello, Spittlebuggies. You're working on a computer. Oh, joy. Yeah, reformatting the MacBook for my oldest was really freaking annoying. I had to go into recovery mode to do it. And so that was frustrating. But yeah, I got it done. And I feel accomplished because I've never really done anything like that before when it comes to like uninstalling or resetting a machine. I've never gone into like boot up mode or disk mode before by myself. So I felt really kind of smart. I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. I actually did it. And I didn't break the computer. Yay! I felt very accomplished about that. I know it's stupid. I know it's a very small thing. But I still felt smart. I still felt very smart. So that's been my adventure for the past couple of days. We've got the oldest one has pneumonia. I think I mentioned that on Tuesday. So that's always fun. And yeah, we're just plugging along here. I'm back here to stream. We've got a couple of things to watch before we do our double QP. Because I want us to watch yesterday's question period before we watch today's question period, because we missed some good stuff. But before we do that, I want to watch this short Asmongold video. It's like 2 minutes, so it's not even that long. But Asmongold says, I said something stupid.
What is this? Dude doesn't understand Asmon got popular? What is this?
All right, surprise, surprise, Asmongold said something stupid on Twitter. I know. Shocker.
Ah, he's reacting to something.
Didn't see this one.
Okay.
Look, I don't understand how this guy got popular in the first place. I don't understand the interest in this guy. I don't want to sit and look at somebody's dirty house on camera when I'm
He cleaned his house. Come on. Come on now.
watching their content.
Okay.
I don't want to see that because he's wrong.
Then
Okay.
don't.
Stupidity, it's on a comeback.
Okay.
It's Ignorance the sequel. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Here's what he had to say.
Okay.
Recently, I've added the word grifter to the long list of words that when used, I take the person using it less seriously. All right, my dude.
He's not, but Asmongold isn't wrong though, because grifter is being overused and used wrongly.
Formerly, a word
It's
used to
condescending,
define
yeah.
a scammer, still means that by the way, is now redefined with the intent of character assassination towards anyone whose opinions differ from their own.
It is.
No, that's not it. You are lying to them with the
No. Hasn't been updated since 2022 Windows 10. So yeah, Windows isn't liking me. Oh boy. Oh boy.
intent to make money.
Pink Hollow's old laptop, he's gonna have to, if he turns it on, he's gonna have to make sure it's not connected to the Wi-Fi because it's got Windows 10 and it cannot handle the Windows 11
off of those
update.
lies.
Under that logic, he would be grifting in this video because he's talking about a topic that he thinks people will pay attention to. He's uploading it. It probably has ads on it.
Like,
Yeah.
bruh, what the hell are these thumbnails? Why the hell are you putting a stock photo of a tear on her mouth? Brother, you gotta chill, what the fuck?
The fundamental reason why someone is a grifter versus not a grifter is that the impulse for their behavior is completely monetary and they
Yeah.
don't believe what they're pushing out there.
That's what those things are.
Well, join the revolution. Watch, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Members, so you're uploading early for members. So you've got cash.
That's funny. That's so funny. He's grifting.
Even I've seen OnlyFans
He's
girls that are
grifting.
less shameless. This is amazing.
The
This
material
is
harm
so
is the
funny.
same, right? So whether somebody's doing it on purpose or they're not doing it, they're doing it completely because they don't understand how dangerous it is. The material damages are the same.
The entire
How?
foundation around defining whether somebody's a grifter is totally based on the intent of the individual.
Yes. Absolutely.
Grifter has to do with the intent of the user. It is
The intention of what the person is doing. What are they grifting for? That's the whole
a
thing.
form of character assassination. It is not a form of defining an action. To say that the material harm is the same, which means that you can use the same word for anything that causes that effect. If you apply this to any other situation, it would be ridiculous.
It does not matter. The harm is the same. I've said this for a long time. I'm very consistent on that.
So
However-
basically, anybody who has an opinion that you disagree with is a grifter because some people that have those opinions don't have them authentically. Okay, well, I think that we've watched enough.
We'll just go with that. You're too stupid to know any better.
That's funny. That's too funny. I can't believe that somebody actually thinks like that. That they're so narrowly that grifter is only one type of thing. Asmongold is correct on the definition of grifter. It is absolutely now being overused and overdone in major fashion, and it needs to stop. Sorry, I'm laughing about the video title from Pierre Polyev here. Trudeau and the Maserati Marxist. This is what's going to lead us into our first part of question period for yesterday.
We're actually moving forward to suspend the sales tax for Canadians so that they can afford the basic necessities that they will need, whether
Hey,
it's
Teddy.
fresh-made produce.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh-made produce. He really does. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store, not from the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he, I guess, thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without
Oh
taxing
my
the
God,
food.
that's
And then
too
you have
funny.
his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there in the.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Wants to tax your gas. They're both out of touch. Canadians are out of money. How about a carbon tax election?
I want to see the full context of that. I want to see the full context of that right now. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to see the full context of that right now. Here we go. Are you ready, kids? Aye, aye, Captain. Anyway.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Coming in this.
This Prime Minister is weak, and he has lost control. He has lost control of the border,
The
of
short of
immigration,
Singh trying to
and of spending.
misdirect from the
And now he's
Maserati
lost control of
questions
his
is
own party.
interesting. I
The
bet.
Ontario Premier is against these tax hikes. The leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, so is the Liberal
Why
Premier
are you
of Nova
allowed to
Scotia
translate?
against these attacks on natural resources.
You are terrible.
And dozens of Liberal MPs want to fire this Prime Minister. How can he still be hanging on to power? He's lost control.
Très honorable Premier.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Hey, 2 days in
Mr.
a row.
Speaker.
Good job, Trudeau.
Our caucus is unified when it comes to delivering
Yes,
for
they
Canadians with
love
a
the
tax
leader.
holiday for all Canadians over the coming months. Although several Conservatives wanted to vote for that tax holiday, but it was blocked by their leader. He's gagging members of his own caucus and preventing them from representing their constituents here in Ottawa. And instead, he's asking them to represent him in their ridings. That's not how it works,
Gagging
Mr.
them?
Speaker. And
I'm sorry. Who made people ask to speak to you at the caucus meeting regarding your leadership, sir?
this side of the
I
House,
think that was you.
we will always stand up for Canadians.
Chef de l'Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister cannot stand up because he's lost control. I already said that he's lost control of our borders, of immigration. He's lost control of these inflationary deficits that have doubled the national debt, the cost of housing, and the number of people who need to go to food banks. But he promised that he would cap the deficit at $40 billion. Next week, in the economic statement, will the Prime Minister respect that promise?
No.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We're like way past $40 billion deficit now.
Mr. Speaker, in due course, we will present the economic statement, and the Conservative Party will likely vote against it, because in it there will be initiatives to help Canadians during this difficult time.
This difficult time that you created, right?
There will be investments in economic growth, throughout the country, and yet the Conservative leader doesn't want to do anything that might help Canadians. He prefers to spend all his energy on jostling for his own political interests, which means he's not helping Canadians when they need help.
Is there a mirror anywhere in there? Does anybody see a mirror? I think he's talking
he
about
voted
himself
against the tax
again.
break and against dental care and against Canadians.
L'Honorable Chef de l'Opposition.
This week, Prime Minister has lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, lost control of spending, and now has lost control of his cabinet and party. In fact, his foreign minister is now announcing her leadership campaign in the New York Times.
Oh!
The Liberal leader of the province of Ontario
Fuck.
has announced she's against his quadrupling carbon tax. The
Melanie Jolie has announced she's running for leader of the Liberal Party. Oh boy. Good God.
Premier of Newfoundland is against his job-killing energy cap, and 20 of his MPs want to fire him. How is it that he clings to power when he's lost control?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We can all see that the leader of the opposition has trouble with the ideas that individuals might have different perspectives, and that might be a good thing for a robust political party like the Liberal Party of Canada.
A robust political party. Okay. I guess so, I guess.
And all its partners across the country. The leader of the opposition refuses to let his backbenchers or any of his team members have any opinions at all. Indeed, he sanctioned them and wrote a letter in their name decrying their advocacy for their own citizens in their communities.
Where are you coming up with this shit? Where is all of the proof of him doing this? Or is it just, we have to believe you, bro?
When it came to delivering money for mayors for housing from coast to coast to coast, he stands for muzzling his MPs. We stand for diversity.
He stands for muzzling his MPs, and we stand for diversity. Oh boy. Yes, diversity. That'll get you far.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Diversity of opinions, I guess that means the opinion that he should not be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
That's the predominant opinion among Liberals across the country. On the front page of the New York Times, you'd think the Foreign Minister would be fighting Trump's tariffs. Instead, she's fighting for her boss's job.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. Why is the Foreign Minister not focused on fighting Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods instead of, I want Trudeau's job?
She's described in the headline as a possible successor after she sat down for a photo shoot and made the case. This on top of a Liberal leader in Ontario who's against his quadrupling carbon tax, a Liberal premier in Newfoundland who opposes his job-killing energy cap. Why won't the Prime Minister get the point? His party doesn't want him anymore.
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Let's talk, Mr. Speaker, about standing up for Canada. One of the things we've seen throughout our history, when Canada is threatened, when it's challenged with a crisis, when people want ill of Canadians, Canadians pull together across partisan stripes, across backgrounds, across the country.
Yeah,
to
that's
stand
what
up
we're
for
doing.
our neighbors, to stand
Against
up for Canadians.
you.
That's certainly what we were able to do as a country 8 years ago. Unfortunately, this basic Canadian attribute seems unavailable to that leader of the opposition
No.
who can't help.
He's utilizing that basic Canadian attribute quite well against you, sir. That's all. That's all it is.
On
It's
playing
against
politics
you.
with Canadians' well-being.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is from a Prime Minister who is helping Donald Trump take away our jobs. You can just imagine the President in the Oval Office calling our businesses to say, hey, I saw that you have a quadrupling carbon tax north of the border. Why not come south of the border where there's no carbon tax and other taxes are falling?
Yep.
How about the latest electricity tax the Prime Minister is bringing in that will drive factories south of the border, or his energy cap that will drive away our resource companies? I understand why President Trump wants to take Canadian jobs, but why is this Prime Minister trying to help him do it?
And he has to keep repeating these questions because Trudeau won't answer them. I know that sounds like he's asked this before, and he has, but he has to keep asking.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The problem for the Leader of the Opposition is Canadians increasingly see through his shallow partisan games. If he actually cared about guys helping Canadians and cutting taxes, he wouldn't have voted against taking off the sales tax for Canadians for the next few months.
Right.
But he wants Canadians to continue to struggle because it benefits him politically, perhaps, instead of actually being there to solve the challenges Canadians are facing. That's why he voted against dental care for seniors. That's why he voted against a school food program. That's why he's voting against a sales tax break for Canadians for the next few months. That's not on, Mr. Speaker.
That's not on?
For the next few months. That's not on, Mr. Speaker.
That's not on. What does that mean? What does that even mean? I don't know.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly unanimously adopted a motion to ask the federal government to put an end to the religious exception for hate speech.
Oh, wow.
Now, everyone here has also, at one time or another, voted for the end of this religious exception. And that makes sense because it is just and necessary to get rid of that exception. Will the Prime Minister move forward now and get rid of this religious exception to incitation to hate and violence?
Yeah, so right now there's an exception for hate speech where if you're like, say you're a Muslim and you say something horrible about Jewish people, you can be like, oh, well, I was just expressing my religious views. Or if you're like a fundamentalist Christian and you say something horrible about gay people, oh, I was just expressing my religious views. Right? That's not okay.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the Bloc Québécois really wanted to do something about incitement to hate crimes, he would be doing something about this conservative filibuster in this house so that we can finally debate
Oh my God, the filibuster is a hate crime? Holy Christ, Trudeau. The filibuster is a hate crime now. Oh my God.
Québécois bill that he's talking about so that we can debate our bill for protecting children online. There are a number of measures that we would be happy to debate so that we can help Canadians, so that we can reduce hate speech. But unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is not putting an end to this conservative filibuster.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Mais c'était limpide.
The honourable member. Well, that was very clear, Mr. Speaker. But we know that
God, woman! Do you know what you're supposed to be doing? Do you even understand what's being said?
6% of Canadians and 75% of Quebecers want to put an end to this religious exception. Will the government remove 2 sections of the criminal code? Will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would be so happy if we were here in this House discussing these important issues. Too many Canadians are facing hate and discrimination these days.
Yeah, because of your fucking wishy-washy
and we want this Parliament to be able to debate the problem and bring forward legislation to fix the problem. But unfortunately, the Conservatives are continuing to block the work of this House, and the Bloc Québécois is not doing anything about it.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
The Conservatives showed us who they really are. They voted against tax relief for the working class. And the Liberals want to jack up taxes on the 15th. Do Democrats believe the working class needs permanent relief? So will the Prime Minister permanently exempt the GST off of daily essentials like a kid's winter jacket?
Permanently exempt the GST off daily essentials. And how are we supposed to get money from, I understand that taxes are supposed to help pay for stuff.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're actually moving forward to suspend the sales tax for Canadians so that they can afford the basic necessities that they will need, whether it's fresh-made produce whether it's fresh-made products at the groceries, whether it's dinner at a restaurant,
at the groceries,
or even a fast food place for the family.
You know, at the groceries, where the groceries live.
These are things that Canadians will find
Justin.
less expensive over the coming months. Unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to vote against measures that will help Canadians. They stand against this tax break for all Canadians, like they stand against dental care, school food programs, and many other things to help Canadians.
L'honorable député de Burnaby Sud.
Why were the Conservatives chirping? They proved that bootlickers are billionaires.
Bootlickers for... Excuse me, sir. How much are you worth?
Families will still need to eat after February 15th. But the GST will be going back up on February 15th.
It is fractious
Order.
there today. My goodness.
I'm having great difficulty hearing the honourable member from Burnaby South.
He's the Maserati Marxist.
The honourable member from Burnaby South.
Why are these conservatives chirping so much? They've proven that they are bootlickers for billionaires.
Oh, I want to say it again. I want to say it again. Yeah.
Families will still need to eat after February 15th, but that day, the Prime Minister will once again increase the GST. Just another liberal letdown. Why does the Prime Minister think that people should have to keep paying GST on children's clothes and diapers? Why?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, our tax break
'Cause we
over the
need
next
to
few months
pay
will help
taxes for
families throughout
things?
the country. It will help them.
Otherwise, we don't have roads or public works or something or anything like
with
that.
what they need to buy at the grocery store, because groceries, restaurant visits, wine and beer,
Not even good wine.
all
though.
sorts of things that
Or
we'll be
good
spending
beer.
on over the next few months. All of these things will be cheaper, tax-free. That's our way of telling Canadians that we see that they're struggling, but we are here to invest and help them. Unlike the Conservatives, who have voted against assistance to Canadians, against the tax break, and against dental care.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh made produce. He really does. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store, not from the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he, I guess, thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without taxing the food. And then you have his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there.
There's the context.
What's the tax for gas? They're both out of touch. Canadians are out of money. How about a carbon tax?
There's the context. There we go. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love this shit. I have to hear it again. I have to hear it again. I have to hear it again. Let's back this up again.
Without taxing, food comes from the
Leader of the Opposition.
Unlike the Conservatives, who have voted against assistance to Canadians, against the tax break, and against dental care.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh made produce. He really does. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store, not from the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he, I guess, thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without taxing the food. And then you have his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there.
I'm sorry. That's amazing.
What's the tax for gas? They're both out of touch. Canadians are out of money. How about a carbon tax election?
That's too good. That's too good. I love it. He's gonna get called out for that. He's going to get called out for that, but I don't care. It's too funny.
Colleagues.
Colleagues, children, I don't like these names that are being called.
Order.
Shut up. See, this is I'm translating. I'm translating from stick up ass to real talk.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God, he let it go?
The opposition had the opportunity to axe the
He
sales
let
tax
it
for
go.
Canadians, and he voted against it and forced his MPs to do exactly the same. He is only interested in his own political self-interest, not interested in helping Canadians, either with a tax break for the next few months or with
the next few months. You mean the next 2 months? Notify Webster's Dictionary. The word "a few" has been redefined to mean 2.
Dental care for vulnerable seniors across the country, or with more school food programs that'll help kids and parents afford their groceries. These are the kinds of things we're doing. These are exactly the things that he is blocking.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says he's going to leave the economy to bankers. He says he doesn't think much about monetary policy, the budgets balance themselves, and that he's not very good with numbers, but he did get one thing right. He said that deficits cause inflation. So did his finance minister right before she introduced his budget, saying no deficit above $40 billion. So, straight up question, will the Prime Minister keep his word and cap the inflationary deficit below $40 billion?
Nope. No, he will not.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition is eager for our fall economic statement. If he really wants to see it, he could perhaps stop the obstruction of Parliament to allow us to move forward on dealing with Canadians and challenges that they are facing. But it's interesting that he brought up inflation once again. He stopped talking about inflation after years of railing about it because we did the work to actually bring it down.
Stop talking about inflation.
In programs that were there to support Canadians, but then
what are you smoking, and can I have some? Because holy fuck, that's good shit.
Contribute to inflation. Inflation is now back down in the target range. Interest rates are coming down. That's why we can give a tax break to Canadians. That's why.
I'm going to ask colleagues to please not take the floor unless recognized by the Speaker, so that we can both hear and that people who do use translation can hear the answers to the questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, inflation is rising. After the inflationary spending of this Prime Minister, in fact, all 4 measures of inflation are higher than the Bank of Canada's target rate. And this Prime Minister's electioneering and inflationary spending will make it harder for the Bank of Canada to reduce interest rates.
Yeah.
Interest rates on Canadians who are already struggling to pay for food and housing. Once again, this Prime Minister said he would cap his inflationary deficits at $40 billion. Will he do that? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, over the last few years, we have invested in measures to help Canadians who are struggling, whether it be dental care, whether it be more child care spaces, whether it be school food programs.
And how many
these investments were all made to help Canadians.
Are opting out of your program because it sucks.
But despite these programs, inflation is nonetheless back within the Bank of Canada's target range. Now, we are bringing forward a tax break for all Canadians.
No, you're bringing forward a tax trick for all Canadians.
But the Conservative Party is voting against that because they only care about partisanship.
The results are in on the Prime Minister's radical liberalization of hard drugs. He teamed up with the BC NDP to decriminalize fentanyl, crack, and heroin. He lowered jail sentences for mass producers of deadly fentanyl. And 80% of the fentanyl made in Canada is done so using ingredients that are not even regulated, but come right into our country where they're cooked into that poison, now threatening our trade relationship with the U.S. Will he reverse his radical liberal drug agenda to save lives and jobs?
And also make the tariffs go away.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, unfortunately, we've seen that the Conservative leader's answer to this terrible tragedy hitting so many Canadians with the toxic drug epidemic is to stand for photo ops in front of encampments and try to use them for...
You're the one who's yelling at him about photo op. Are you kidding me?
Cheap votes. Exploiting Canadians is not the way to move forward. We've anchored ourselves in science, in working in partnership with municipalities,
Where's the science
with frontline
in
workers, with
giving addicts more drugs? What science is that?
provinces,
The science of enabling?
States on precursor chemicals, working to invest in supports, wraparound supports, including housing for people suffering from homelessness and the drug crisis. We will continue to be there for people.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The results are in. His radical liberalization of hard drugs has led to a 200% increase in overdose deaths. 47,000 people have died. The worst deaths have been in NDP-controlled BC, where the liberalization has been the most extreme. Worse, he's allowing 80% of the precursor chemicals used to make fentanyl come in unregulated and legally over our border to be used by criminals who get out because he softened the sentences. Now our trade relationship is threatened over it. Will he reverse this disastrous experiment to...
That's why Trump is threatening these 25% tariffs because of the drug
save
problem.
the jobs and the lives of Canadians.
The border problem.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what has become increasingly clear through the Leader of the Opposition's little performances is he doesn't actually care about Canadians and about people suffering. He is there for a clip, he's there for a photo op, but he's not there to do the work of delivering based on science, based on compassion, based on a public health approach on dealing with the toxic drug epidemic. He is instead continuing to try to score cheap political points on the backs of the most vulnerable. That's not serious. That's not responsible, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what is not responsible is allowing 80% of the chemicals used in fentanyl manufacturing to come in unregulated and legally. What is not responsible is decriminalizing crack, heroin, and fentanyl, and then after you see that it leads to a massive increase in deaths, then 2 weeks ago, he, the Bloc, and the NDP all voted in favor of a committee report to decriminalize fentanyl right across the country.
What the fuck? When did that happen? That's not okay with me.
At a time when Canadians are dying and our border could be closed, will the Prime Minister confirm that he has reversed himself and now opposes decriminalization of fentanyl?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we see the priority of the Leader of the Opposition is to exploit and use Canadians who are suffering to score cheap political points.
He's asking you a direct question, sir. You need to answer it. Are you for or against decriminalization of fentanyl?
Meanwhile, we do the serious work amongst parliamentarians across different orders of government with partners around the world to address this in a way that is grounded in science, not ideology, that works with frontline workers, makes investments in wraparound services,
science,
and
not ideology,
puts everything forward to try and save lives as best we possibly can. That's what Canadians deserve, not the kind of cheap partisanship that this Leader of the Opposition continues to demonstrate every time he stands up in this House. It is absolutely irresponsible.
You feel super proud of yourself for that answer, don't you, Justin?
Then I have
the Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker.
Oh, it must be Opposition Day.
I feel the Prime Minister doesn't understand how serious this situation is. The National Assembly of Quebec voted unanimously for an end to the religious exception, and the Jewish community in Quebec and Canada is afraid. Due to the federal government's lack of action, people can openly incite to violence against the Jewish community. So if the Prime Minister shows that he's serious, we will also be serious. If he says that he's willing to do something about this, we will unblock Parliament for 24 hours. Order, please. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we see that the Bloc Québécois is open to doing something here, but we would like to see that kind of readiness when it comes to other initiatives. For example, improving the healthcare system for the most vulnerable, which is blocked due to conservative filibustering. Same thing for dental care, also blocked by the conservatives. Or we would like them to help us be able to work on our online harms bill, C-63, which would protect people throughout the country, especially children.
It's not an online harms bill. It's an online don't talk bad about the government bill. That's all it is.
We would like to be able to debate all these things in Parliament, but unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is continuing to let the Conservatives to make it all grind to a halt. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, I don't think the Prime Minister liked my idea. It's a matter of leadership. It's a matter of courage. It's a matter of consistency. We have courage. I'm simply proposing the same thing as the Prime Minister already did for the GST break. We're proposing the same thing to protect the Jewish community. We will unblock Parliament. We will pass this. We will feel good about what we've accomplished. And then who knows? If the government has other good ideas that don't interfere with Quebec, who knows?
Fuck you, fucking Yves-François Blanchet.
Order, please.
Fuck off.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker.
Ow.
We always come back to this matter of so-called interference with Quebec. The Bloc Québécois thinks that an initiative that would help seniors go to the dentist involves trampling on Quebec's jurisdiction. We are here to help seniors throughout the country, including in Quebec. We are here to improve old age security for seniors over 75.
Why haven't you done it already?
We are here to invest for those who need it most. And unfortunately, even when we created childcare spots throughout the country, the Bloc Québécois only wanted to talk about interfering with Quebec. We're here for all Canadians, including Quebecers.
This week, Prime Minister has lost the...
Hey, it really is Opposition Day yesterday.
Which has doubled since he became Prime Minister. And just this week, the OECD published a report showing that Toronto and Vancouver are now the two most expensive housing markets in all of North America.
Holy
Vancouver's
shit.
housing is significantly more expensive than Seattle, even though Vancouverites make half as much money. Toronto's housing is more expensive than New York, even though New Yorkers make 50% more.
That's insane. New Yorkers and Seattleites make 50% more than their counterparts in Toronto and Vancouver, yet Toronto and Vancouver outpace them.
Will the Prime Minister call a housing tax election so that we can bring it home?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader has been having a rough few weeks since he promised he would be shutting down housing projects across the country.
Oh, he's had a rough few weeks, has he? Where? Since when? Since how?
His Conservative MPs have been going around behind his back complaining to the CBC that they can no longer advocate for their communities. Complain that they're no longer allowed to stand up for their mayors who need investments in housing in their communities. He prefers to muzzle his MPs than allow them to be their voice in their communities. His commitment to cut billions of dollars of investments from housing will not help anyone, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, we don't complain to the CBC, we complain about the CBC.
There you go, exactly. Why would the Conservatives, even if they were complaining about something behind Poilievre's back, why would they go to the CBC for that? That makes no sense.
But I digress. The Prime Minister says that if he gives more money to local bureaucracies, they'll speed up home building. So he gave $500 million to Toronto City Hall. What happened? Home building slowed down by 40%. He gave Vancouver City Hall $115 million. And housing construction slowed down 15%. Gave $176 million to Ottawa City Hall. Construction down 22%. When will he learn that what we need in this country is to build homes, not bureaucracy?
But the bureaucrats are my friends.
Speaker, mayors across the country, including in Conservative-held ridings, are speaking out about the reckless cuts the Conservative leader is proposing to money that municipalities need to increase densification, to accelerate permitting, to move forward on home building faster and faster across this country. The Conservative leader is standing against what his own MPs are asking for when he's telling mayors across the country he's going to pull billions of dollars away of investments in housing that'll respond to Canadians' needs to be able to grow the economy and live securely for the future.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
So he gives tax dollars to big city politicians, and then he gives tax dollars to CBC to interview those big city politicians to say that they like getting the money. Well, Mr. Speaker, if giving more money to big city politicians...
What? A lot.
We're going to solve the
Nope.
problem. We'd have the most affordable housing in the world after revenues for cities has grown twice as fast as inflation and population combined for 2 decades in a row. We don't need more money for bureaucracy and politicians. We need money in the pockets of home buyers and home builders. So why not my common sense plan to axe the sales tax, GST, and bring down housing costs by 50 grand?
Yeah, see, that's the kind of GST axing he wants. Not this stupid 2-month break on half the shit.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're seeing the clear pattern of the Conservative leader. He picks fights with journalists, he picks fights with mayors and city councils,
He picks
even
fights
picks
with
fights with the
journalists,
Team
mayors,
Canada
and city
approach that
councillors?
is standing up for Canada's interests, faced with real challenges from the incoming administration to our south. He is choosing...
Nope, he cannot.
To pick fights and divide Canadians at a time when we should be pulling together to solve the challenges of housing, solve the challenges brought in by the new American administration. These are moments for us to pull together. Unfortunately, that's something of which this Conservative leader seems incapable.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Hiking taxes, debt, and inflation to pay off politicians in exchange for press releases and photo ops will not solve the problem.
Nope.
What it has done is doubled housing costs and made Toronto and Vancouver the most expensive housing markets in North America, worse than New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and many other places with more people and money and much less land.
Oh,
so
come on, Polyev, don't fuck up
here's a
now.
choice. He's afraid of a carbon tax election. Why don't we have a different kind? Why don't we have a housing tax election where he proposes to give money to politicians, I propose to put it in the pockets of home buyers.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if he really wanted to put money in the pockets of Canadians, he wouldn't have voted against the Canada Child Benefit. He wouldn't have...
Who voted? Okay. What stupid bullshit did you put in the Canada Child Benefit Bill?
Voted against our initiatives to cut
His
taxes
boss
for
came
Canadians
up with the
over the next 2 months. He wouldn't have voted against initiatives like the Canada Carbon Rebate that puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadian families across the country as we fight climate change and reduce emissions. He continues to seek to divide and pick fights amongst Canadians while we are offering solutions to both support Canadians now and build a stronger and more prosperous economy into the future. That's what we're going to keep doing, Mr. Speaker.
You must do that.
The Honourable Member for London Left Fanshawe.
The holidays fast approaching, people in Ontario are scrambling. This Liberal government has let grocery prices soar to pad the pockets of CEOs. Canadians are paying far more for far less. Ontario food banks are cutting back. The surge in demand has surpassed the capacity and resources. Liberals have let people down. Worse, Conservatives won't fix it. They will cut and make life harder for the working class.
What's up?
Why are the Liberals leaning on food banks to fix the
YouTube
affordability?
didn't tell you I was on. Well, that's of course YouTube didn't tell you I was on. Why would YouTube do that? That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Crisis. they created.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I remember a time when the NDP stood up for workers across this country. But when we put forward a proposal to send a $250 check to working Canadians right across the country, to anyone who worked last year and made less than $150,000, they stood against it. They said no, they won't support being there for working Canadians. Of course, we will continue to look at doing more for seniors and more for young people, but recognizing hardworking Canadians who stepped up and got us through the pandemic, got us through this inflation crisis, turning their backs on workers like the Conservatives are, is really a shame to see from the NDP.
I'm going to... Order, please. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Hamilton Centre, please, to not take the floor when not recognized by the House.
Yeah, member for Hamilton Centre. Whoever you are, shut up.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The Chiefs of Ontario are calling for improved accountability of the non-insured health benefits program and access to mental health services. First Nations and Inuit are not consulted or invited to participate when selecting cultural support providers for their communities. As a result, unqualified people with criminal records are enrolled as service providers. When will the Liberals meaningfully work with First Nations and Inuit to improve accountability and access to appropriate mental health services?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
For your question, her question.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Tried to thank her in Inuit and fucked up and said his question.
For your question, her question, Mr. Speaker. The reality is the AFN Chiefs are right now engaged in a review of the entire program. We will continue to work with Indigenous leadership across this country to make sure we are fulfilling our responsibilities, to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be healthy, everyone gets the services and supports that they need. We know this is part of the long journey of reconciliation that we have embarked upon as a country. We will continue to be there as a full partner in this and all other difficult discussions.
That was literally a non-answer.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, recent reporting about India's alleged interference in the Conservative Party leadership race is concerning Canadians across the country.
No. Do you mean the Conservative provincial party leadership race?
Including my constituents in Davenport. All members of this House have a responsibility to take national security seriously. That is especially true of our party leaders, including the leader of the opposition who refuses to get a security clearance. Can the Prime Minister explain the efforts to protect our national security against foreign interference?
Bravo.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Davenport for her question. Allegations of Indian foreign interference in Conservative leadership races are alarming, but they're not new. They were highlighted in the NSICOP report. They were highlighted by the public inquiry into foreign interference. Yet, the Conservative leader refuses to get the top secret clearance necessary so he can be fully briefed up on threats to his party, to his colleagues, and to our democracy. It is inexplicable to the vast number of Canadians why he refuses to take the top secret briefings that would keep Canada.
Because again with this shit.
It's not the first time my members know that I've asked this question of various members in the House. I'll ask the honourable member from Edmonton West, as well as the member from St. Albert, Edmonton, to please not take the floor unless requested by the chair. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Ha! He keeps doing it. Fergus keeps almost calling Poilievre the Right Honourable Prime Minister over and over again. It's hilarious.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has lost control, but he's clinging to power with the help of his NDP Liberal leader coalition partner, who said, I'm going to quote the NDP leader here, he said the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. He bemoaned the fact that the Teamsters and the ILWU were forced back to work, violating their right to strike. How can this Prime Minister cling to power with the help of someone who says he's too weak and too greedy to govern?
That's a good question. Why is Jagmeet helping him if he's this upset with him?
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader has spent the last few months in this House trying to demonstrate that Parliament can't work for Canadians. He's been obstructing debate. He's been obstructing our ability to move forward.
He's not saying Parliament can't work for Canadians. He's saying it's not working right now and that it should be working for Canadians. That's what he's saying.
On delivering for Canadians, and indeed every chance he gets, he votes against measures that would support Canadians, whether it's the tax break that we're giving over the next few months, whether it's moving forward on dental, on the school food program, on more spots in lower price childcare. These are things he's voting against because he just wants Canadians to believe that everything is broken. Well, it's not, Mr. Speaker. We're continuing to believe in Canadians and build a stronger future together.
This is like the guy that threw the entire China set on the floor, watched it shatter and go, it's fine. It's not broken. But you're standing amid the pieces. No, I'm not. Everything is fine. It is stacked neatly on the floor. Like, that is what he's
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, Canadians want to fire that costly Prime Minister. His MPs want to fire that costly Prime Minister. The only one keeping him in power is the NDP leader, who again says the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Oh, and now they're complaining that Canadians might choose me if there were an election. That's not their choice. It's not my choice. It's not any of their choices. That's the decision of the Canadian people. So why doesn't he turn the decision over to the people who run this country, Canadians, in a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, the Conservative...
Shut up. Everybody, shut up.
Again, ask honourable members not to take the floor. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservative leader demonstrates that he's trying very, very hard to prevent anything from being delivered for Canadians, whether it was dental care, whether it's the tax break that Canadians are getting off the sales tax for the next few months, whether it's initiatives around childcare or a school food program. He has stood up time and time in this House again and again to vote against measures that directly support Canadians, that grow the economy, that help people out, because his political argument relies on people being broken, Canadians being divided, people being angry. That's not
you broke the people. You broke the people. You divided the people. This is not him.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We'll fix everything he broke, Mr. Speaker, as my great finance critic said. And, you know, let's start with the carbon tax. The Indian Resource Council announced today they will be presenting a resolution at the Assembly of First Nations Special Chiefs Assembly to take the Liberal NDP Prime Minister's carbon tax to court. They say, we will not stand by where our communities are pushed further into poverty by the tax we never agreed to. And they want to dispel any notion that lower-income First Nations are better off with the carbon tax rebate. Mr. Speaker, why won't he listen to courageous First Nations people and have a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Indigenous people have been the first and have for the longest stood up to highlight the dangers of climate change, the impact of
our great noble Indigenous people have always known about climate change. Jesus Christ.
Neglecting our environment, of not protecting our lands and our oceans, particularly against the previous Conservative government of which that member was a part. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, the Canada carbon rebate puts more money back in the pockets of Out of 10 Canadians right across the country. We will continue to fight climate change by putting more money in their pockets, despite the attempts of the Leader of the Opposition.
You are full of shit, sir.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition
is talking down to First Nations people again. They said that they've done the research, and I quote, they want to dispel any
I can
notion
feel
that
my
lower
ankle
income
bones
First
again,
Nations
sort of.
are better off with the
Yay.
carbon tax rebate. In rural and remote
No,
communities
because I
where
took 2 Advil.
First Nations live, the tax drives up their food, their heat, and their transportation bill so much that the Ontario Liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, has said, I promise you, I will tell the Prime Minister he was wrong on issues like the carbon tax. Why won't he listen to Bonnie Crombie and other Liberals and call a carbon tax?
Because he doesn't like them. He doesn't like them, and he doesn't care what they have to say. That's why he doesn't listen to Bonnie Crombie and other Liberals, because he just doesn't like them.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, Indigenous peoples across this country know better than most the costs of inaction on climate change, the impacts of extreme
Why are you being so
impacts, quite
racist
frankly,
towards
of conservative
Indigenous people right
underinvestment
now?
for
Indigenous people know the most about climate change and environmental disasters. Why? Because they're Indigenous? Do they have like secret genetic knowledge because they're Indigenous that they know more about the weather and the planet than we do? Oh my God.
Years in the kind of infrastructure and supports they needed. We turned that around, Mr. Speaker. We started treating Indigenous peoples and communities as partners. We invested in fighting climate change. We're putting more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with the Canada Carbon Rebate. We are continuing to make sure that protecting the environment and growing the economy for everyone goes hand in hand. That's the path forward.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talked about seniors. Well, let's talk about them.
Oh, good. You're
The Prime Minister admitted that there was discrimination in increasing old age security for those 75 and over. His party says he supports our bill to end discrimination in general. He says he supports supply management, but he is not doing anything to support the swift passage of our supply management legislation. He should unblock things here in the House so that we can pass our anti-hate speech bill. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Yet another example, Mr. Speaker, of the Bloc Québécois looking to pick a fight. Meanwhile, we are delivering for Quebecers and Canadians. We are investing through dental care. We are helping seniors who have often a lot more expenses or maybe less savings. We are doing good things for all Quebecers and all Canadians. We will continue to be a partner to all. Meanwhile, the Bloc Québécois and the Conservative Party are trying to block this parliament, and they're trying to block help and support to Canadians, to Quebecers, to seniors. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. We don't want any squabbles. We do want so-called common sense. We could unblock the parliament unanimously.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see each member in this place who won't rise to support a vote to put an end to hate propaganda and hate religion-based hatred. So who will vote for that bill? Will the government support it? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we've said, we're very open to discussing and debating that matter. That said, we acknowledge that there can be more than one solution. There's no easy, quick fix solution. There might be many solutions. We need to keep working together. That's why we
so many solutions that I don't know which one to pick.
Made Bill C-63 to tackle online hate. It will protect children.
How will Bill
There will be
C-63
solutions
protect
through
children?
C-63 to fight hate speech and discrimination, especially online. We do have work to do here in this House.
No. See, Bill C-63 will just prevent people from talking shit on you guys for the online for the foreseeable future.
Why doesn't the Bloc Québécois block Conservatives from continuing their filibustering? The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Halifax longshoremen, unionized workers, have just put out a statement. On Monday, the NDP has the opportunity to reinforce that they will not bring in back-to-work legislation by supporting their own leaders' words. And below are those words in a copy of the common sense Conservative motion calling the Liberals, quoting the NDP Liberal leader as saying, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Will the NDP Liberals stand with unions and vote non-confidence in this costly government?
Hey, there you go. So Monday is the next non-confidence day. So we'll have to take a very good look at that.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We can tell, Mr. Speaker, why the Conservative leader is so desperate to bring Parliament to a halt, to prevent debate on matters that are actually going to deliver for Canadians. As we support Canadians, as we make investments that are growing the economy and showing up for Canadians, like the tax break over the next few months, the Conservative leader sees that we're actually solving some of the challenges that the global economy has tossed our way.
The global economy some of the challenges the global economy has tossed our way. You actually expect people to believe that?
These are things that we are focused on while he's focused on his own political partisan advantage and personal attacks. We're going to stay focused on Canadians, on delivering for them tangibly and concretely.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
His own party doesn't agree with him. He's so weak. But the NDP keeps him in power while the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador is attacking his energy cap. The Liberal Premier says that this reduction of 35% in Newfoundland's energy production is already sending investment away.
Yeah.
We understand that President Trump wants to take our money in jobs, but why is the Prime Minister standing against his own Liberal Premier in Newfoundland and Labrador to help Trump do it?
Because he's all about himself. He doesn't actually care about the country or the people.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, across the country, except on the Conservative benches, Canadians know climate change is real. Canadians are also stepping up in lots of different ways to help reduce their emissions, to grow the economy, to create a better future for their kids and grandkids. The multi-billion-dollar profitable industry that is the oil and gas industry right now has an unlimited ability to emit emissions into the atmosphere. We don't think any industry, particularly not one as wildly profitable as the oil and gas industry, should be able to have unlimited pollution. That's why we're putting a cap on emissions, not on production, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That's factually false. The industry's emissions have been regulated for decades, Mr.
Right, exactly. Ever since the... Is he a Labrador Retriever? Maybe. He might be.
Speaker, and he just wants to shut down their production and give more of the money and jobs to Donald Trump and the United States of America. And then there's the electricity tax. He calls it a regulation, but now we know that it's a tax because the independent Ontario energy operator says that this new regulation tax will drive up costs for families by $175 a year, and will drive factories, mines, and mills south of the border. Why is it killing jobs with high electricity prices?
Good question. Again, who is shaking my desk? But that's a good question.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our oil and gas emissions cap is a cap on emissions, not on production, Mr. Speaker. No sector should be allowed unlimited pollution, and it's unfortunate the Conservatives continue to defend that incredibly profitable sector that is costing Canadians so much. The reality is we will continue to work with the industry that is working on reducing its emissions, because we know that's how we protect oil and gas sector jobs into the future, by innovating, by bringing on better technologies, and by recognizing that no sector should have a right to pollute unlimitedly.
Unlimitedly. No sector should have the right to pollute unlimitedly. Is that even a word, unlimitedly?
Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan.
I didn't think so.
Like everywhere in Canada, in my constituency, affordability is a major issue. My constituents in Alfred Pellan were pleased to hear that for the next few months they will have some relief thanks to the GST holiday. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians how this GST holiday will help them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I thank the member for Alfred Pellan for his question. We know that the past few years have been difficult for Canadians. This is why we are offering a tax break to all Canadians. This means that Canadians won't have to pay any taxes on groceries and other essential everyday products for 2 months. It makes no sense that the Conservative leader and his caucus
and 2 is now a few. That's apparently what I've been told now. 2 is now a few.
Against giving Canadians a GST holiday. We want Canadians to have more money in their pockets, but the Conservatives are opposed to cutting taxes. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of our borders and of immigration. He has in fact admitted so and has done a total 180 on immigration. Here's what we want to know. Will he take back control? Can he answer a very simple question? How many people stay?
That's what they keep saying. Because they're against the GST holiday. They're against cutting taxes. Because they're against the GST holiday. So what? So they're now against axing taxes. Yes.
Why does this sound like an argument I was just having recently?
Here in Canada illegally. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, after the pandemic,
of course, blame the pandemic.
Provinces, businesses, small businesses throughout the country. They had labor shortage issues. That's why we allowed more people from abroad to come and work in Canada. Now the situation has changed. Thankfully, our immigration system is flexible. We brought down our immigration levels to guarantee that our economy can catch up with our growth. That's totally normal, Mr. Speaker, to adjust immigration levels based on the current situation in Canada.
It's totally normal, Mr. Speaker, that we allowed millions of people to come in for years and then went, oh shit, too many people.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Normal.
His government is supposed to oversee entry and exit into this country. So here's my very easy, simple question. How many people are here in Canada illegally? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada has always had a generous but responsible immigration system.
Just answer the question. We just want a number of people.
The integrity of our immigration system has always been strong and has led to strong growth, economic growth for our country over the past decades, and we will continue to uphold the integrity of our immigration system. We put in place measures to ensure that those whose visitor visa or other types of visas and permit expire, so to ensure that they go home. Our system will remain thorough and will keep its integrity.
Head of the government, responsible for monitoring who comes in our borders and who leaves our borders. So surely he'll be able to answer a very simple question. How many are in Canada
He's got his patient father voice
illegally?
He's got his patient dad voice going.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things that has distinguished Canada from many countries around the world is our immigration system has
Dude, either say, I don't know, or give a number. Just stop with this shit.
By Canadians, by our citizens from coast to coast to coast, because it is a strong and robust system that adjusts according to the needs of our population, of our economy, of our growth paths, of our housing starts, and that is exactly what we continue to do, where the Conservative leader is once again seeking to divide Canadians, seeking to import right-wing rhetoric.
Yes, we did.
But for some reason, in the last 3 or 4 years, after a vow was made to get our numbers up to 50 million or 100 million by 2030, no, 100 million by 2050 was his stupid pledge.
Yeah.
So he has to artificially inflate the numbers.
Instead of...
So they reduced restrictions on student visas.
Yeah.
They reduced restrictions on all sorts of things. Reduced restrictions on why we deport people. All in the name of bullshit. All in the name of progress.
From south of the border. We are going to continue to stay true to our Canadian values, deliver a strong and robust immigration system that meets Canadians' values and expectations.
Just a number.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Abbotsford, please, not to take the mic. He's an experienced and well-respected member. The Honourable Member for King's Hants.
Speaker, this summer, Canadians across the country were filled with immense pride watching
Deport the illegal.
What? Am I wrong?
No.
Then why is that funny?
Because of the way you said it. It just sounded funny. Alright, so that was... Let's... I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead here.
In removing Olympians and Paralympic record, unfortunately, the Conservatives...
Honourable Prime Minister.
this report. That same story can be repeated for every single athlete who proudly wore the maple leaf in Paris. Can the Prime Minister explain how we are supporting our world-class athletes and why it is important to support Team Canada?
What a softball question.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to join my voice to those on this side of the House who are very excited that we have Olympians and Paralympians in Parliament today. Here on Parliament Hill.
Yay! We have people here that are both gimpy and not gimpy to watch us carry on like idiots.
Who celebrated them throughout this exciting summer, watching our Olympians and Paralympians succeed and inspire Canadians is something we can continue to celebrate right now. We will always support our athletes and work to make sure they can represent their country the very best. That's why we're giving more money for our athletes, supporting pregnant athletes so they don't have to give up their careers to start a family. These are all initiatives we're working to move forward.
You mean pregnant women? Supporting pregnant women athletes. You don't have to say pregnant athletes. We know. Oh my God.
Unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to obstruct this House and make it more difficult.
The Honourable Member from Churchill, Kiwatanaski.
Be accountable
from coast to coast to coast.
Let's see here.
Canadians and 130. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker.
So these are backbenchers for... Okay, let's move on.
Well, they're asking Trudeau.
Huh?
They're backbenchers asking Trudeau, or are they kissing Trudeau's ass?
They're kissing Trudeau's ass. Those are liberal backbenchers. So, our very own Fury Kitten made a video. He made a song about mudslinging, about Canadian mudslinging. And we're gonna listen to it, because I don't think Fury Kitten will mind. I think Fury Kitten will get a kick out of it. And I'm gonna react to it, because I want to. And he actually tagged me in the video, so we're gonna take a look at this. We're gonna take a look and have a bit of a laugh. Are you guys ready? Ooh, I like the beat. I like it. Okay. Okay, I like this so far. Okay, this is funny. I'm liking it so far, Fury Kitten. I like it so far.
Order the they banner with heads held high. Order the they say it's the rules they invite. Famine strikes with hidden hands. Words of leaders made of sand. Order, order.
Okay, this is great.
Order, order, shouting out loud. Order the wildfires burn so proud. Brokenest minds in the polluted cloud.
Brokenest minds. Okay, I love that. I love that. Brokenest minds. That's great.
Brokenest minds in the polluted cloud. Order, can't see through the shroud.
That's fucking amazing.
Order, you will obey and conform. Shadowy deals under the table. Promises flimsy, less than unstable.
This is great.
Order, they chant in crowded halls. Order, they build yet everything falls.
This is all about order. Order being yelled out. This is great. I love this. Fury Kitten, you need to make more of these things.
Silent cries lost in the chaos. Life in circles never pay off. Oh, the true house. Hey, hey, hey. Brokenest, I'm the brokenest. The broken native lanes. Previous government. Right-wing YouTube. Wildfires, housing, famine, flood, locust frogs, John. Definitely the quasi-branch. Brokenest. I am the brokenest.
This is great.
Look upon my works and weep. Order, they march to keep in line. Order, they claim will save in time. Ice caps melting, drowning land. Tattered fate slips through our hands. Order, brokenest, I am the brokenest.
This is brilliant.
Brokenest, look upon my works and weep.
Bravo, Fury Kitten. Fucking brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant.
On every platform, order you will obey and conform. Order you will obey and conform. On we.
Well done, Fury Kitten. Well done. That was fucking funny. That was great. Do more of those. If you're watching the replay, because I know you're probably working right now, but fucking do more of those, because that was great. That was amazing. I loved that. That made my day. Canadian Mudslinging Politics #1 is the title of that. That was awesome. That was from our very own Fury Kitten, you guys, and I that just made me grin. That made me laugh so much. I'm so glad we listened to that. Oh my god, that was hilarious. Now it's gonna be in my... I'm gonna listen to that over and over again, because that's actually a really good beat. That's a really, really good beat, and I'm very happy with it. It was amazing. Oh. All right. There's question period. And they just finished.
All the more important. I hope January are the proof. Let the
Oh, we've got to skip through our statements and declarations. Okay, where are we here?
With brio.
Oh, Pip is here today.
Mr. Speaker, can who's
skippity 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 skip all the way to the oral
has gotten us
question.
into the mess. When will the from the confidence?
Public Mac crash.
Yeah.
Colleagues would like to listen to all. Order.
Oh, he said something.
Housing cost and crippled pensions.
He said
will
something.
continue to vote pro-confidence in this government so he can receive his pension. It's the perfect partnership. The Prime Minister gets the power and the NDP get their pensions. More hypocrisy from the Maserati Marxist champagne socialist jet-setting high-carbon coalition that has broken our economy, doubled our housing cost, and crippled our natural resource, agriculture, and transport sectors. They brought in back-breaking regulations and taxations that have led to record numbers at our food banks and sky-high violent crime. The NDP do their grandiose announcements about breaking up with their Liberal partners, but when push comes to shove, they continue to prop up the very government that has gotten us into the mess. When will the leader of the NDP finally stop the talk, take some action, and call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide between the carbon tax coalition and a common sense conservative government that will axe the tax, stop the crime, fix the budget?
Okay, so that's what it was.
I
I thought he actually said something that made Fergus angry.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
So I'm going to meet in the G7.
$1 billion. In fact, the PBO said
has to hide.
Are we here?
Oral questions.
Yes, we are.
Crystal Zohad.
Okay.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
they say weak men create hard times, and this weak Prime Minister's inflationary deficits gave
weak men create hard times, huh?
over
We're
40
going
years.
there?
The finance minister promised one of her fiscal guardrails would not be going over her deficit, which is $40 billion. In fact, the PBO said she blew right past it.
Yep.
Simple question. What's the deficit?
You were definitely not one to say the words weak men, mister. I drive a Maserati. Real men don't drive. Men don't let men drive Mazzies.
Wait. That's the...
Woman's car. Just so you know.
Okay, but that's the Calgary member guy. That's not saying that's...
I'm just saying.
The honourable minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague.
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, what my honourable colleague fails to point out is that Canada is projected to have the fastest growing economy in the G7 next year. He fails to point out that we are creating jobs at a near record pace. He doesn't understand that wages are increasing faster than inflation.
They are not. Where are wages increasing faster than inflation? Show us.
For the economy is to make cuts to the programs that are supporting people, cuts to the programs that are building houses. He's opposing, ironically, the tax cut that would deliver relief to families over the holidays. We're going to focus on growing the economy in a way that works for everyone, not the conservative approach to cut the supports that families need.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
He could have just said he doesn't know, like he doesn't know where the million people he lost went. And even this number-challenged Prime Minister admits every new
Sorry?
It's the winter. They're not building houses right now.
No, they're
all
not.
of his handouts make his inflationary deficits worse. He says he's going to leave the economy to the bankers, that he doesn't think about monetary policy, and he said budgets balance themselves. It's the same incompetence that made Canadians bank broke, building broke, and belly broke. Canadians want to know how broken the Liberal deficit is. What's the number?
Way to go, Jack!
Yeah, what is the number?
The honourable minister for health.
Where's Christia? Why is Christia not answering this?
Communities.
My honourable colleague seems to have a penchant for alliteration and personal insults, but what he lacks is an ability to advance policies that will grow the economy or actually help people in need. Mr. Speaker, at every opportunity, they oppose the investments that are creating jobs in this country. They oppose the investments that are building homes in this country, and they oppose the measures that are going to provide tax cuts to middle-class families, to low-income families, to workers in this.
Sean Fraser? Yeah, because we're all just chickens voting for Colonel Sanders.
For once, I wish we could have a debate about the issues instead of stooping to these lows where they throw insults instead of advancing policies that help real people.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Here's a common sense policy that common sense Conservatives will bring in when his constituents fire him after the next election. We're going to axe the tax for good for everyone. And these deficits that this Prime Minister keeps making sent over 2 million Canadians into a food bank in a single month, made 1 in 4 Canadians skip meals, and sent 1 in 5 kids into poverty. But the Finance Minister said all of them are just feeling a vibe session. Look, if she's not going to release her economic statement, will she at least tell Canadians how bad she's going to blow through her deficit?
Yeah, way to go, Jack!
Okay, come on, don't do that. Don't be like Christia, whoever you are.
The honourable minister for families, children and social development.
I'd like to remind that member that the last time the Conservatives were in government, more than 16% of kids were living in poverty. Over 1 million children.
Somebody please think of the children.
We've come into government, Mr. Speaker. We've lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty through measures like the Canada Child Benefit, supporting families.
You didn't create the Canada Child Benefit. You renamed
the National
it.
School Food Program, now in place in 4 provinces across this country, helping to ensure
What? She's too high.
kids have food at school. Not to mention an HST
She does sound like she's
GST
taking a
tax break,
Zapan
Mr.
of
Speaker.
some kind.
We're there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Prime Minister supported by the Bloc Québécois, this Liberal government is so bad that it's ashamed of its own results. In the last budget, the Minister of Finance predicted a $40 billion deficit, but now we know that the government has added at least $6 billion in inflationary spending to that forecast. But the Prime Minister is ashamed to reveal what the state of the public coffers is. When will the Prime Minister accept our offer to be transparent with Canadians and present the fall economic statement on Monday? Why are they so afraid of letting Canadians know the truth? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Well, speaking of telling Canadians the truth, Mr. Speaker, when we offered a tax break to Canadians over the holidays, a proposal that the leader of the Conservative Party supported a mere 2 years ago, then what did the leader of the official opposition do? He told his MPs to vote against it.
Because it's bullshit. And I bet you he didn't need to convince them to vote against it either.
Here in Ottawa today, Conservative members are no longer the representatives of their constituents here in Ottawa. On the contrary, they carry the will of their leader back into their ridings. It's inexcusable. If they really are serious about helping Canadians, they will vote for the tax break.
But why would they vote for the tax break when you've already... The NDP, you and the NDP have already voted for it and it's already going to happen. Why would the Conservatives need to vote for it again?
I would invite the honourable member for Port-Neuf, Jacques Cartier, to not take the floor, if not allowed by this chair. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, this member ought to be ashamed. The Prime Minister, with the support of the Bloc, keeps spending unaccountably, or without accountability, rather. Meanwhile, families are paying a price for this. According to a Sylvain Charlebois report on food prices, families will have to pay up to $800 more for the groceries in 2025.
Yeah, I saw that headline today while I was in the hospital. I'm scrolling Twitter. That's insane.
The Prime Minister thinks that budgets will balance themselves, but he has also said that deficits lead to inflation. He promised to limit the deficit to $40 billion. So will next week's economic statement confirm that he will keep that commitment, or will he cause even more inflation for families? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, my colleague just quoted Sylvain Charlebois on food prices. That same person has said that climate change is the biggest challenge for the agri-food sector. In fact, he just published a report on the impact, the macroeconomic impacts of all this on the agricultural sector. And on page 14, the first part of the report is on climate change.
Somebody please stop letting her translate.
Does it mention the carbon price? No, not at all. That's not even a factor, according to Professor Charlebois. None of this makes any sense. I would just remind the minister to not use documents like this as props. You can quote things, but you can't visibly reference a document.
Ah! That's funny. That's too funny.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Well, Mr. Speaker, this will come as a shock to no one, but the Senate is still dragging its feet on Bill C-282 for protecting supply management. For 18 months, our so-called wise men and women in the upper chamber have been looking at this bill, which has a single clause. They've spent 18 months studying a single clause. And yet today they are still postponing a vote on a crucial amendment. They're trying to push it until after the holidays. Will all of the party leaders ask the senators to stop dragging their feet, to have a vote, and to ensure that C-282 is carried before Christmas? The Honourable Government House Leader. As my colleague knows very well, we on this side of the House, we support this bill. The Prime Minister, all of our ministers and caucus have spoken with the senators and are suggesting that they do that work.
They're suggesting, eh?
That this government fully supports supply management.
Suggesting they do the work.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Things are not moving quickly enough, Mr. Speaker. It's been 18 months. The senators have still not managed to study a bill with a single clause. It can only mean one of two things. Either they're ready to retire or they're thumbing their nose at us once again. And when I say that, I'm not just speaking of the MPs here in this House. I'm also speaking of all of the farmers in Quebec and Canada who are under the supply managed system. That's 90,000 jobs just in Quebec. These people deserve to get an answer before Christmas. On behalf of our farmers, will all the parties ask the senators to get moving before the holidays?
That's valid.
The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To my honourable colleague in the Bloc Québécois, we agree. This is important for farmers. This is important for the supply managed sectors in Quebec and elsewhere in the country.
Okay.
We agree with that bill.
Then make the senators do their fucking jobs.
Support what the Bloc has done. We support the bill getting through the Senate. Only the Conservatives seem to have issues with this. So I would invite my honourable member for the Bloc Québécois to speak with the Conservative Party to ensure the Conservative senators stop blocking this bill.
Oh, fuck off. It's not the Conservative senators. It's two Liberal senators.
L'honorable député de New Westminster, Burnaby.
Les gens en arrachent.
Mr. Speaker, people are struggling with the cost of living throughout the country, and a new report shows that a 4-person family will pay $800 additional for groceries in 2025. Meanwhile,
why is he speaking in French when when you can obviously tell that he's supposed to that his French is
chain CEOs
not
are raking in the profits, but the Conservatives don't care at all about the working class. They always want to help their billionaire buddies. Meanwhile, the Liberals could change things if they wanted to. Will they finally stand up against the greed of the big grocery chains?
The greed of the big grocery chains.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his excellent question. The NDP has an opportunity to help people during the holidays by helping them have this tax break. We're asking the NDP to work with us to help Canadians so that millions of people will get a tax break over the holidays. They have an opportunity to do that, and I'm asking them to help.
Honourable member from Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Translation, they won't. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are feeling squeezed. A new report says a family of 4 can expect to pay $800 more in food in 2025. While
That's a
grocery
lot of
CEOs
money.
are getting richer, workers are scrambling to put food on the table. Liberals let people down. And the Conservatives, they want tax breaks for CEOs, leaving Canadians paying more for everything. Billionaires don't need relief. The working class does. Will the Liberals permanently remove the GST off of life essentials so that families can get a break?
No, they will not. And we know they will not. And if they do, it will be for like some stupid short amount of time.
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
We know that life is expensive, Mr. Speaker, and we want to deliver a
Do
break
you?
to Canadians. We know that the cost of food has gone too high, which is why we want to remove tax over the holidays. The irony is the Conservatives make the same attack, but they are opposing a tax cut on food for families. Mr. Speaker, I should plan as well the idea that we've got an important stakeholder in Ottawa advocating for a national school food program this week. Her name is Molly. She is an 8-year-old in grade 3 at A.G. Bailey in Nova Scotia. And we're going to provide not only a tax cut on food, but a national school food program so she and her classmates will be able to enjoy a healthy meal.
Stand on the back of an 8-year-old girl to get your point across. That's great. That's just great.
Order. The Honourable Member for Foothills.
The NDP Liberal Carbon Tax Coalition is delivering Canadians a Christmas nightmare. Canada's Food Price Index report showed that, on average, Canadians will spend $800 more on groceries this year. The Prime Minister's carbon tax is making a dire situation even worse. The number of food bank visits in Toronto are up 1 million people to 3.5 million visits, a 43% increase in new food bank users. Scurvy is on the rise. Food insecurity has surged more than 20%. All Canadians want for Christmas is a carbon tax election. When will this Prime Minister make that Christmas wish come true?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Let's get serious, Mr. Speaker. The very report that the member opposite...
Order.
Everybody shut up.
Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary from the top, please.
Let's get serious, Mr. Speaker. The very report that the members opposite cite says that climate change is the greatest driver of food price inflation. It's the same thing Sylvain Charlebois said when he came to committee recently, and the Conservatives have no plan to fight climate change.
That's not true. Polyev has gone over the clean green energy plan.
In addition, we stepped up over the holidays to offer Canadians a GST tax cut. What did the Conservatives do? They opposed. When we step up to help children across Canada get food at school, what do the Conservatives do? They oppose. You want to make...
What?
Give Canadians a Merry Christmas. Step up.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Well, I guess it would take a Festivus miracle to have a serious Prime Minister who understands that when you increase taxes on farmers who grows the food, truckers who move the food, you increase costs of the food.
No, but the food is fresh made at the grocery store, just like Trudeau said. the fresh made produce. It just pops out of the ground in the store. Or like magically appears in the refrigerators in its prepared cut up form. It's magical.
But after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, this is the Christmas list Canadians face. Grocery prices up $800. Price of food inflation is up 36% higher in Canada than the United States. A quarter of Canadians are skipping meals. When will this Prime Minister grant a common sense Christmas gift to Canadians and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
I would like to quote Maklevik, Chief of Security at TD Bank, and he says, I would like to quote Maklevik, Chief of Security at TD Bank, and he says, I quote, okay, enough. This is an outright lie, and I'm not in the habit of calling people liars. The report he's referring to does not mention that the carbon tax is a factor behind the $800 increase, and certainly does not.
Then what's behind it? What's gonna make food go up $800 next year, if not the carbon tax?
Not say that carbon tax will cost families $800 more on food. That's coming from the Chief Security Officer at TD Bank, Mr. Speaker.
Money launderer, thanks. Order. The Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Under this Prime Minister, New Brunswickers continue to struggle and will now have to pay $800 more for food next year. After 9 years, the NDP Liberal carbon tax has caused the price of groceries to skyrocket. According to Food Bank Canada, the number of people accessing food banks increased by 73% the last 2 years. Over 1 million Ontarians are relying on food banks. That's more people that live in my home province. Canadians deserve better. Will the Prime Minister agree that now is the time to call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A reminder that that member and all of the Conservatives have had an opportunity to support the work that we're doing to provide relief to families in New Brunswick and across the country. I look to the National School Food Program, Mr. Speaker. So far, 4 provinces have signed on, meaning over 184,000 kids will receive food at school this school year. More than 1.5 million meals, Mr. Speaker. They could support us with affordable.
That's a good question. That's a very good question there, honey.
Affordability measures should they choose to do what's right, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, not a single plate of food has been served, and 1.4 million Canadian children are living in poverty. The rise in the cost of food is a direct result of the carbon tax. The Prime Minister doesn't understand. If you tax the farmer that grows the food and the trucker that ships it, you end up taxing the family that buys it. Already the NDP Liberal carbon tax has resulted in food prices increasing 36% faster in Canada than across the border. Will the Prime Minister finally give Canadians the carbon tax election now?
So TD Bank, it sounded like Titty Bank, and I was so confused.
Although the chair couldn't quite make out the words, he did hear some people intervening from the far end of the chamber. It is really important. And this was brought up this morning in different meetings, but it's really important for members not to speak while other members are talking.
Very important for everybody to talk, to not talk when when other people are talking. It's very important.
Than the respect that we could have for our members who use the translation devices so that they can hear what's going on in the House. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just because a Conservative member of Parliament makes something up doesn't mean that it's true. The Minister of the Environment
but you guys can make
quoted
stuff up
the
all
actual
the
report
time.
that says specifically
And that
the
means
price
it's
on
true.
pollution is not responsible for the increase in food prices. But if the Conservatives were honest with Canadians and wanted to actually do something to help them with the high cost of food over the holidays, they could support our GST tax break for Canadians that is taking the GST off of essential items, including groceries, Mr. Speaker. If they were honest with Canadians, they would support the school food program that is feeding 184,000 kids. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Once again, the honourable member from Abbotsford, I'm just going to ask him please not to take the floor unless recognised by the House so that everybody can participate. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, you know, we have this beautiful tradition in Canada. Children who write letters to Father Christmas. But this year, we've learned that Santa has never received so many letters from kids who are not asking for toys, but instead are asking Santa for food, scarves, winter coats, and gloves. That's what children...
If that's true, that's fucking heartbreaking. I don't know if that's true, but that's sad.
Children are asking for after 9 years of this Liberal government. A $500 billion deficit from this government. Are they really proud of their record? The Honourable Minister of Seniors and Labour. Well, Mr. Speaker, I am left speechless by what my colleague says when he just voted against the GST break. Coats, mittens, children's clothes, and many other things like prepared foods and restaurants would all benefit from that. And so this member voted against that, and believe it or not, he also is against school food programs. He doesn't want to fund breakfasts and lunches in schools. It's unbelievable, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member.
Oh, this is so bad.
Winter clothes aren't on the fucking list.
No, they're not.
So what the hell is this idiot Frenchman talking about?
This is the Minister for
I'm just so done.
Labour and Seniors.
I'm so done.
For Louis Saint Laurent. Well, I am against a 10-cent break on a bag of chips. What a huge difference. Well, real talk, Mr. Speaker. After 9 years of this government, 2 million Canadians are having to go to food banks. And food prices are going to go up by $800 next year due to...
Yes, $800 food prices are going to happen.
This government's inflationary policies. After 9 years of this inflationary government with the support of the Bloc Québécois, is this government really proud of its economic record?
L'honorable ministre du Travail et des Aînés.
The Honourable Minister. Well, we are proud of the low rate of unemployment in Quebec, our record levels of foreign investment.
Why do we
This
have
is a leading
foreign
country on the world stage.
Why can't
And
we have
yet, what
domestic
does the member
investment?
across the way say when we're offering a tax break on things like toys, Christmas trees, children's clothes, restaurant meals?
Winter clothes
well,
aren't on
this
the
member
list,
got up
though.
and voted against it. He keeps talking about affordability, but he voted against it. It's unbelievable. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, things are getting serious for Lyon Electrique, and the Prime Minister should keep his promises. In 2021, the Prime Minister personally went to the Lyon Electrique factory to announce billions of dollars in the Zero Emission Transit Fund.
Okay, so this is like an electric bus company that they're talking about. That's what this is.
And the Prime Minister told the company to get ready to be snowed under by orders for buses from the rest of Canada, but that never happened.
No.
Why? Because the federal government refused to grant the full sums that it had said it would give in subsidies to potential buyers. So will the Prime Minister finally keep his promise and unblock the funds?
No. Of course not.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for the Bloc Québécois for his question. Lion Electrique is indeed an extremely important business when it comes to transit electrification, not just in Quebec, but elsewhere in Canada as well. And the federal program will enable municipalities to buy hundreds of electric buses. Thanks to that program, Mr. Speaker, unlike what my colleague for the Bloc Québécois and for the Conservative Party, what my colleagues have said. Order, please.
Order, please. Everybody shut up now.
À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. L'honorable député de Rivière-du-Nord.
The honourable member. Well, this is talking about the future, and the future is too late. The Prime Minister didn't just make this promise to Lion Electrique. He also made promises to their workers, including the 400 who just got laid off right before the holidays. But at the time, the company took the Prime Minister at his word, and they opened a second battery factory in Mirabel. They hired people. They bought supplies. But then in the end, they are not getting orders because the federal government has not provided the funds it promised to potential buyers.
That's a problem.
The Prime Minister has had a role to play in the difficulties facing the company. So he needs to personally take action. Will he?
No.
To the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we know where the puck is going in the world economy, which is towards the clean economy of the future. Our government has been working hard to attract billions of dollars of investment to secure good-paying jobs for generations to come. That's precisely the work we've been doing. We know Lion Electric is a leader in electric buses and electric trucks in this country, and we'll make every effort to work with them to get projects across the finish line.
The hockey analogies are really bad.
This situation is being monitored closely, and we know how important it is to Quebec and the Government of Canada.
L'honorable député de Pierre.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher.
No. He said Lion Electric.
To seize opportunities to build the green economy, and about economy throughout the country, including in Quebec.
The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Speaker, as we approach Christmas, there is no joy. A recent study shows that more than 21% of Nova Scotia households were food insecure in 2022, which is a 17% year-over-year increase. And about 1/5 of those people who are food insecure seek help through services like food banks. As a result, food bank use in Nova Scotia has skyrocketed. Food bank leaders say it's a perfect storm between the rising cost of living, unaffordable housing, and inadequate income. Will the Prime Minister call...
Hey, Fury, we reacted to your song. It was fucking hilarious.
...carbon tax election today so that Nova Scotians can feed themselves with dignity.
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Food insecurity is a very serious issue, including in my home province of Nova Scotia. But, Mr. Speaker, it's hard to take seriously the question from the Conservative Party members when they are literally opposing a tax cut on food. This holiday season, we are putting a GST holiday in place to reduce the cost of food that people buy, including when they go out to eat at restaurants, including products that are not exempt at grocery stores. Mr. Speaker, I hope the honourable member will put his money where his mouth is and for once support a measure that is going to deliver meaningful financial relief to families in need.
The honourable member from Cumberland Colchester.
Well, Speaker, I suggest that member opposite go to the grocery store now again because essentials, grocery essentials, are already GST exempt.
Exactly. Most actual necessities at the grocery store are already GST exempt.
And the temporary tax trickery on foods such as sugary and salty foods and coated candy, popcorn, beer, and ready-to-drink alcoholic drinks are certainly not going to help food insecurity on behalf of many Canadians. And we continue to see that accessing food banks has increased 73%, and now more than 1 million Ontarians are visiting food banks, which is 6 times the population of Prince Edward Island. Canadians need relief. Will they have a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
It is absolutely clear my honourable colleague was not listening to the answer to his first question before
Yes,
he
he
delivered
was.
his second. I said specifically that we are exempting tax on food that is not already exempted from the GST, including food that people may purchase at a restaurant. Mr. Speaker, what's interesting is the Conservatives are opposed not just to the tax cut on holiday gifts, toys for kids, clothing for kids, diapers, car seats, and food. They oppose the measures we put in place to reduce the cost of living when we cut taxes for the middle class, when we stop sending child care checks to millionaires so we can put more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 Canadian families.
Yes, say it faster. Maybe nobody will notice how much you're lying.
It's all politics.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Member from Regina Leuven.
Obviously, that minister hasn't been to a grocery store in a while. The NDP Liberals quadrupling of the carbon tax will cost Saskatchewan people $2,000 a year. Now, the latest food price report shows Canadians are being forced to buy less nutritious food because of the higher prices. This is Canada under that Prime Minister. To make matters worse, the average family will spend $800 additionally on groceries next year. Will these NDP Liberals finally do the right thing and call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide between their plan to tax everything and our plan to axe the carbon tax on everything for everyone?
Hey, it was funny. I thought it was a great song. Now it's gonna be in my head for a long time.
Order. Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, this feigned sympathy, these crocodile tears on behalf of the Conservatives is fooling
Oh my
no
God,
Canadian.
she's even talking like Krista Freeland. Is that the requirement to being her secretary? Is you have to talk like her too?
To support measures that would help Canadians, measures like cutting their taxes, Mr. Speaker, they opposed. When we proposed a school food program that's going to help feed thousands of children across the country in their schools, Mr. Speaker, they opposed. Every time we try and help Canadians, Conservatives stand up and oppose that help, Mr. Speaker. Let us be clear. This Conservative leader does not have the interests of Canadians at heart.
The Honourable Member from Port Moody Coquitlam.
Parents are struggling to get their children the health care they need. 5 million Canadians don't have a family doctor and are relying on emergency rooms to get care. And ER visits
Some of us have
even
family doctors that still have to rely on emergency rooms to get care.
higher for kids. A new report shows that 1 in 7 ER visits could have been treated in primary care. Liberals and Conservatives before them cut healthcare transfers, and it's led to this crisis. Why are the Liberals doing so little for Canadians for them to get the care they need?
Good question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. Canadians deserve good public health care across the country. That is why we as a government support publicly funded healthcare system. That is why we're making unprecedented investment in our healthcare system. $290 billion over 10 investment in our healthcare system. $290 billion over 10 years.
$290 billion over 10 years in the federal healthcare system?
Every province and territory, with the sole purpose of ensuring
So does that
that
mean
primary
each province
healthcare
gets
is available to
$29 billion?
all Canadians across this country, and we urge our provinces to take action to make sure that there are more doctors and nurses available in all those communities by using the federal dollars that have been transferred to them. Thank you.
How do you divide? So that means $29 billion a year for 10 years. Divide that up by 10. That's around $3 billion a year for each province for the healthcare system.
The Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, everyone across Canada is feeling the high cost of living, and that's especially true for people living in the remote communities on Haida Gwaii, who are isolated from the mainland by a 7-hour ferry ride. Now there is a tax deduction that is meant to help people in remote communities afford the high cost of living. But 30 years ago, it was a Liberal government that cut Haida Gwaii's access in half. Now, they've been fighting to get it back ever since, and so my question is, will this Liberal government do the right thing and restore the full Northern residents tax deduction for the good people of Haida Gwaii?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question, a very important question. We've been working since day one on affordability issues for all people of the North and isolated communities. We've brought in a tax cut for groceries, for diapers, for essential items last week. The Conservatives voted against it. We brought in a national school food program, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives voted against it. There's more to do.
Because it's all bullshit.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the government announced their intention to split the Online Harms Act into two parts, to move quickly, to act now, and to advance child protection measures. We've lost too much time because of the Conservative stalling tactics. I find it unconscionable that the Conservatives are opposed to forcing the removal of child sexual abuse material from the internet.
No, 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 no. You don't get to spin it that way. You don't get to spin it that way, sir. And you're never going to be able to remove all of that smut from the internet. So just don't even try, okay?
Can the Minister of Justice explain why the updated Bill C-63 is essential for the safety of Canadians, especially our kids?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Auditor Attorney General.
Everything in my power to protect children. That is what splitting this bill is about. At committee this morning, Carol Todd, the mother of Amanda, said, quote, "I've waited 12 years for this because on day one of Amanda's death, I knew that things needed to change in terms of law, legislation, and online safety."
Yeah, and Bill C-63 isn't going to do anything for that.
I can't bring my child back, but we can certainly keep other children safe. Mr. Speaker, parents need our help. Children need our help. Bill C-63 is about protecting kids and saving lives. Every party in this chamber has a vested interest in doing just that. Will everyone find the courage to back this bill?
The Honourable Member for Kildonan, St. Paul.
Mr. Let's see, this is all backbenchers today. So let's see, what? That's true. Parents should learn how to use the internet better. Let's see. Let's, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna finish off here, I think, because I need to eat. I'm still hungry. But, I will be back tonight with some Mortal Kombat because I'm feeling a lot better. So, well, I'm not feeling a lot better. My legs are less sore, so if I keep the ibuprofen up, then I should be okay to do some Mortal Kombat tonight. So I will be back tonight. I will see you guys then, but I need to go and eat something. Because one slice of pizza did not cut it. So I will be back tonight around 9:30 to play some Mortal Kombat. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later on. Bye, everybody.